Uh, and we're going to go ahead and open the floor for questions. Our first question is going to come from Cole Cusumano. Go with the question, Cole.
Thank you, Matt. Hey, Chase, you guys have got two 11th place finishes over the last three races. Does it feel like things are getting pointed in the right direction for that 14 team? And if so, what's kind of changed in this time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for sure, being able to run closer towards the front definitely is good for confidence and momentum. I feel like, really just the last couple of weeks, we haven't made mistakes where, early in the year, we had about the same speed, maybe a little less, but, we just would have a bad pit stop or, had speed on pit road or something like that. So I feel like the last couple of weeks we've just executed and we haven't dug ourselves in a deeper hole. Obviously right now, as a company, we're still off a little bit. So we just have to be, perfect. We can't make mistakes. And, I feel like, Darlington, for example, we just did everything all day right, the correct way. We didn't, make any mistakes all day. We had solid pit stops all day long, got on and off pit road good all day long. And it was just a solid day all around. And when we did that, we had a solid result. So we just got to keep trying to do those things. And, as we continue to run farther up front, our starting position gets better and all those things, just compound and make everything easier in general in the race. So I think right now we're 20 points out of 20th place in points. And if we could get to 20th, it's only going to help our position and starting lineup even more. So we just got to keep doing the little things right. And, like I said, all year long, we got to crawl and walk, then run. And we just got to keep making baby steps week in and week out.
Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Yep. Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from David Smith. Go ahead with the question, David.
Hey, Chase. There's a lot going on in the Cup Series. Is different from what you experienced in Xfinity. The races are longer. The competition is tougher. You have a completely different car that you're trying to figure out. Is it a mixture of all of it, or has there been one thing, one big hurdle that's just kind of been difficult to clear for you?
I think all of it, it's all tougher, in the Xfinity series. I feel like on a bad day, we would still run 7th or 8th, where now if you have a bad day, you run 25th to 30th. So just the competition is a lot tougher, as a rookie, I feel like you get raced a little bit different than some guys. You got to kind of earn your respect in a sense. So I think, for me, just the competitive side has been the biggest eye-opener. But then there's been a lot of things just I've had to learn to get better at. Green flag pit stops is obviously a crucial part of the Cup Series. And I didn't have a lot of experience with that in the Xfinity Series. And then now with no practice, I just show up and in the middle of the race, that's my first chance to try it. We don't have practice or anything like that to kind of figure out where I need to start braking. And, pit road's a lot busier, all these things. So I think, for me, just trying to do all the little, like I said earlier, do all the little things right. If you go back to Kansas last week, I wasn't hitting my pit sign hardly at all. I was always a couple feet short or a foot long or whatever, and our pit stop suffered. So, I went to pit practice this past weekend and really tried to focus on that. And then this week, made sure I hit my pit sign every time. And I think we were the 7th or something best pit crew on pit road. So, it's just all the little details. And when you're kind of like where we are right now and you're racing kind of in that 15th range speed wise, those little details is what makes the difference in being in the back half the top 10 or running 20th. So that's been the biggest thing, is just trying to do all the little things right, because you do a couple of those little things wrong and it really adds up.
So, different from the Xfinity Series, the Cup Series, you're probably going to have more bad days than good days. And it strikes me that last season, when you're winning 9 times in the Xfinity Series, you didn't have many bad days at all. How is that on your mental strength? I mean, you didn't have to persevere through that much last year. You are this year. How are you treating that?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly tough. I mean, you go from going to the racetrack, the Xfinity Series has 33 races. I went to the racetrack every weekend thinking that I was going to be the guy to beat. And not that you don't still have that in the Cup Series, but I think you have realistic expectations. I knew coming into the Cup Series, I wasn't going to probably win 9 races this year. I knew that it was going to be a huge learning process, for me, just trying to continue to get better week in and week out. And for me, I know that I'm not a worse race car driver than I was last year. If anything, I'm better now than I've ever been, just because of the experience I've been getting. So, I know I'm still capable of running up front, and for me, I just try to judge myself off of my teammates. They're obviously the closest thing I have to, what I'm racing week in and week out. And, fairly consistently, I feel like we've been able to be the second best car. So, that's been the biggest thing for me, is just try to be the second, best car week in and week out. Obviously, we want to be the best car, but, we have a long ways to go to be where Harvick is right now. And we know that. And, truthfully, I don't think there's expectations for me to be outrunning Harvick right now. So if I can just be the second best car every week, I feel like I'm doing my job right now. And I think the results will come as I continue to get experience. Just take some time. And, like I said, I feel like from where I was week one to where I'm at right now is a significantly different race car driver from an experience standpoint, even a confidence standpoint, as I get these 11th place runs and get a run. Darlington, we ran for a while there, 7th, 8th place. As I continue to get a run up there, I gain confidence. All those things are just going to continue to add up. And once we slowly start putting it all together, I feel confident that we'll be able to battle for wins, but we got to start battling for top 10s first, then battle for top 5s, and eventually wins.
Yeah, thanks, Chase.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Bob Pockrass. Go ahead with the question, Bob.
Yeah, Chase, do you feel like the equipment has improved the last month, or do you feel like it's more you just kind of getting comfortable in, as you said, team not making mistakes?
I think, I can't speak for the whole company, but I feel like on the 14 team specifically, we've just done a better job of doing those little things right. We haven't been putting ourselves in a box. The way we look at a race on the 14 team is we just need to try to gain 2 spots every run. If we can gain 2 spots over the green flag cycle, then come down pit road, gain a spot or 2. On the restart, gain a spot or 2. We're continue to get up in track position. So for us, I just feel like we've been doing that better. I don't know if our cars are necessarily better. I think if you look at Kevin, he's kind of been the same kind of area that he's ran kind of all year long. And I would say he's kind of the benchmark right now for us. So I think there's no question that, at least for me, that our cars are still off, especially on the mile and a half stuff. I feel like we have quite a ways to go. But for us on the 14 team, I just feel like we've done a better job of doing, the little things right week in and week out. And that's why our results have been getting better.
And have you driven COTA at all in anything?
I went there, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, and I think I ran 7 laps total that day. So I've got very little experience, but I've at least seen the racetrack. So I've got a general idea of what to expect whenever we go there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Our next question will come from Claire B. Lang. Go ahead with the question, Claire.
Already asked, but I'd really like to talk about Dover and navigating the high banks. What do you know about the difficulty of Dover that you could tell the fans about as they watch it, what they should watch for?
Yeah, I personally, I really enjoyed Dover. It's one of my more favorite racetracks. It's definitely in the top half of tracks I enjoy going to. It's a place where I feel like it takes a lot of commitment. You have to have high commitment driving down into the corner. Whenever you go to pass somebody, if you're side by side, it's who's braver getting into the corner. It's that guy that decides not to lift, normally comes out with the position. So Dover's a place that is high commitment. Even when you're just out there driving around by yourself, it's a high commitment racetrack to go fast. It's so fast. You drive down into the corner, high banking, and you have to have high commitment getting back to the gas, even before you're to the center of the corner. So I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is just the commitment level you have to have whenever you go there. And then it's just a super tricky place to set up passes. You have to really time everything properly so you can even get beside them. But yeah, when I go to Dover, I just think of the commitment level it takes to go good there.
When did you learn commitment as a young driver? When we look at the young drivers at Dover, is that hard? Is that like a veteran ability, I guess, to be committed immediately? And then also, what are the restarts like there?
For me, I think the first time I went to Dover, we were able to set on the pole, and I attribute a lot of that just to going back to my ARCA days and running at places like Salem and Winchester, which are kind of small Dovers in a sense. And those are places I always enjoyed going to. I've always enjoyed high banked racetracks. So for me, I think, if I wouldn't have ran Salem and Winchester and stuff in the ARCA series, Dover probably would have been a lot harder for me. But I felt like going to those places, it felt like you were going just as fast there, even though it was half the size. So, I think, some guys, it might be really hard to show up and go there. It's definitely could be an intimidating place. But with all the experience I had at those places, I felt more comfortable, I guess. And then the restarts are definitely very challenging in Dover. It's hard to make passes. It's very easy to get caught up in somebody else's wreck there. Just how close we are all the time on restarts. And I think at Dover, the choose cone probably comes more into play than a lot of places. It seems like, sometimes the top will roll a little bit better and then the bottom is kind of the place to be. So it's definitely a challenge whenever you go to Dover on restarts, and it's definitely one that gets the heart rate up for sure.
Good luck and thank you. Appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.
Our next question will come from Daryl Kinsey Jr. Go ahead with your question, Daryl.
Chase, Daryl Kinsey Jr., WBGR Sports. You spoke a little bit earlier about how your cars at Stewart House Racing still a little bit off. How has the lack of practice hurt you guys trying to diagnose what's going on with your equipment over there?
Yeah, I think, for sure practice would help. When you go to the racetrack, say we try something new, you don't know if it's going to work or not. And if it doesn't work, then obviously you're kind of stuck with it for the whole race, where if we had practice, we could get more aggressive, try things. And if it doesn't work, you could, change everything and go back to kind of what we know. So that part's definitely, I feel like affecting us a little bit. And as a rookie, being able to have practice would be huge. And just even if it's 15 minutes, just so I can kind of get an idea of what I need in the race car and even what to expect on the racetrack. So, yeah, I would say practice definitely is a contributing factor of why it's harder now than ever to kind of get back on track if you're struggling. But, everybody's in the same boat as we are. We just got to figure it out, and I'm confident that we will.
And going into this weekend with Dover, there seems to be a phenomenon that the rubber kind of comes up under the caution during the caution. How challenging is that, trying to diagnose how the track is changing when during the caution periods you guys pick up a lot of the grip that you put down?
Yeah, that is a tough part about Dover. Your car is going to do something totally different at the beginning of the run versus the end of the run, just because of that rubber. And your car might be fighting one thing, and then 10 laps later, it's magically fixed or it's magically way worse. So, that's kind of the tough balance about Dover. You throw in the green flag pit stops where we don't have the time to pick up the rubber. Your car will handle totally different then too on new tires. So Dover's hard. It's a place I feel like where you have to have that experience as a driver to kind of know what to expect. Kind of that balance change, as well as the crew chief and engineers have to kind of know the trends that normally happen there. So it definitely picks up all the rubber under caution. It's pretty incredible to see from the driver's seat, just the color change in the racetrack from, lap 100 of a green flag run versus whenever a caution comes out. So that's just one of the things, going to Dover, and you have to be ready for it.
Thank you, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Tucker White. Go ahead with your question, Tucker.
Chase, a big topic of conversation amongst the IndyCar community at Texas and their recent trip there was the use of PJ1 there. Graham Rahal himself said that racing on it was like walking on ice. How does that compare to your experience racing on it at Texas?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's hard. The PJ1, it seems like he said, it's ice. And then all of a sudden it's like you're on a slot car track. There's kind of no in between. So, for us, I feel like last year it was a little bit easier just to go out and get in it. Where I remember the first one, I guess really the first year and a half we went there, I mean, you couldn't even touch it and you were spinning out. And it seems like our tires do a little bit better job than what they run. And I think, the PJ1's probably a little more suited for what we do versus them, but it's definitely challenging. I don't envy what those guys are doing around that place at those speeds, knowing how treacherous it could be. But yeah, I think, unfortunately, that's kind of the box we're in at Texas right now. Just with how the racetrack is, we kind of have to have that PJ1 out there to kind of make a race out of it and get the track more than one groove. And as the years go on, it'll get better, I think. But it's definitely challenging, and I can only imagine how hard it is for those guys.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Marty Sakala. Go ahead with your question, Marty.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Chase, thanks for the time today. Hope you're well.
Thank you,
NASCAR announced earlier today, and actually a bunch of reporters said instead that NASCAR informed teams that you don't have to wear a mask outdoors this weekend. Starting at Dover, you still got to wear one inside the haulers and in the enclosed areas. Just what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, if NASCAR feels confident that that's the okay thing, then I'm confident that all the teams will respect that decision, and inside the hall are still wear it, and then outside be able to take it off. I think I was reading somewhere where the CDC said that it was okay to be outside without one. So I know that NASCAR is in all the due diligence to make sure that what they're making now the new mandate or allowing us to do is a safe and proper thing to do. So I trust their judgment 100%. They've been kind of on the forefront of all this stuff, and obviously we were the first sport back, and we've done it safely to this point. So I'm confident we can continue to do that.
Great. Thank you, Chase. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next question will come from Ashley McCubbin. Go ahead with your question, Ashley.
Hey, Chase, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, no problem.
Knowing that you won at Dover, Delaware last season in the Xfinity Series, what are your expectations going into this weekend?
Yeah, I feel like it is a good track for me. I feel like I had pretty decent speed whenever I go there. But obviously the Cup deal, like we were talking earlier this whole time, it's definitely kind of a whole nother animal. It's a lot tougher. So I think, for us, we just got to do those little things right once again. If we do that, the one good thing is last year this was a low downforce race, and the SHR cars were really strong. So hopefully we can continue that into this year. We have a little bit better starting position than we normally would. So we just need to keep doing those top 15, top 10. If we can get in the top 10, that would be great and finish up there. But I know that as a race car driver, I feel confident going there, and I feel like that's a huge part of going to a racetrack is having confidence there. So we'll see how this weekend goes. All we can do is control what we can control and try to do all those things right. And hopefully at the end of the day, the results will be there.
And as we approach the halfway mark of the regular season, what surprised you the most this season?
I think for sure all the different winners, the amount of winners that we've had, it's going to be challenging to make the playoffs. Obviously, we're still quite a ways off that. If we can get, 6-7 weeks in a row here where we're running in the top 10 and get some stage points, it's still not impossible, I don't think, to get to that cutoff spot. But, with how many winners there is, it's very well possible that we have over 16 winners when we get to that point. So it's probably going to take a win, but I would say that's for sure been the biggest surprise of this season, is how many winners we've had.
Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Our final question will come from Daniel McFadden. Go ahead with your question, Daniel.
Hey, Chase. So kind of going off Daryl's question earlier, when you go to COTA next week, you're gonna have a practice session. How much do you anticipate that practice will be devoted to not just getting ready for that race weekend, but also like working on things as a team and a track atmosphere that you don't get to because you don't have practices at all the other races?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard. The thing is I don't think you can necessarily try stuff that's going to work at other places just with it being a road course. But I will say that it's probably going to be a challenge to go and do a practice environment. That's something that normally, doing a shot change or doing whatever is so second nature, and they can do it so quickly to really maximize that practice time where, we haven't done that a lot in the last year and a half. So I think that the team guys might be a little rusty when it comes to that. But I think, the other thing at COTA, as far as I know, there's only a 50-minute practice. And if by the time you do an out lap, do an in lap, and do whatever lap you're doing, you're probably not going to get but maybe 8 to 9 laps of practice at the most. So it's going to be really hard to make changes and kind of figure what your car needs, or just figure out what kind of works, because you're probably only going to get 2 or 3 changes at the absolute most. So you're still going to have to unload fairly quickly or very quick from a speed standpoint and a balance standpoint. So it's going to be hard. But yeah, I'm glad that we're going to have some practice just to kind of, for me, get back in the rhythm, especially road course racing, just kind of see what I need. I felt like at the Daytona road course, at the very end of the race, we were pretty good. It just took us, 3 or 4 adjustments to get to that point. So hopefully at COTA, we can kind of start where we ended Daytona and have some good speed.
And in about a month, we'll be racing at Nashville, and you're one of the few drivers who's gotten a sneak peek at that track and what it's like right now. So what were your takeaways from your time on that track, and what do you think people can expect from it?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot quicker of a racetrack speed wise than I thought it was going to be. I didn't realize we were going to be using as much brake and stuff as we were. So that was very eye opening. I think it's going to be a challenge to pass, I think, but It's hard to really say, truthfully, because there's only 3 of us there. There's not a ton of rubber getting put down. It was really, really cold when we were there. I think, you put 40 cars out there. We're going to have 3 series as well with practice. The rubber is going to get there. When we were there, it was pretty one lane on the bottom, but with all those cars, all the rubber that's going to be put down, there's probably going to be hotter temperatures. I would assume the track's going to widen out quite a bit more. But it's hard to say, with only 3 cars there. So I think it'll be exciting to go to Nashville. It's a great city. I think they've got a ton of fans already scheduled to be there. So it's going to be really cool to race in front of a lot of people. It's always cool to go to a new racetrack. So I'm excited for it. I'm glad that I'm going to have a lot of laps there, being able to use 2 Goodyear tire tests. I think that'll be a huge advantage for me, just unloading. By the end of practice, I think everybody will be caught up, but that'll be nice to go to a racetrack and kind of know what to expect first lap.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Chase, thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck with this weekend in Dover.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.